£463,247. That is how much this exact process has made my clients in the last, what are we now, May, 16 months. So this is exactly how you can book calls, book qualified, quality sales calls onto your calendar with ease, because it is easy. It's very, very easy. You just need to know how to do it. And if you click onto this video, it's because you or your team want to book more sales calls and you want to get more cash in the business and you want to book more qualified sales calls. So I'm going to show you step by step over the next X amount of minutes how we can do that. So before we tuck into the meat and potatoes of this, discovery and authority positioning are the two biggest components here. But in order for us to really understand the authority positioning shift that we can create, we need to understand the three components before it. Okay, so I'm just going to run you through that. Now you're probably looking at this thinking, scripts, aren't you dead against scripts? Yes, I am. Okay, now I've gone into depth on so many videos as to why scripts are just inadequate. Okay, now a script for the DMs is tragic at best. Okay, and the reason that I say that is for a handful of reasons. Okay, so number one, it's most likely not you. So you're probably following the script, but you know it's not you. You're like, what the fuck? Like, this doesn't sound like me. But you're forced to say it because you've been given it by your business mentor and all that stuff. So that's number one. Number two is that it glosses over the key components of any conversational process. And the whole intention of a script is to get a call booked as soon as possible. Now we sacrifice when we run a script and we just book the call. And if you're encouraged to book a triage call, then you need to just pump the brakes a bit. When we sacrifice time, or when we sacrifice patience for speed, we skip over all of these things, which means that even if you get someone on a call, the likelihood of you closing them is significantly lower than if we just take our time and chill out. So that's another reason why scripts don't work, right? The third reason why scripts don't work is because scripts are not reactive to conversations. They're just set in stone. They're about as movable as the wall here and as moldable as the wall and the brick here. They're not moldable at all. Now, every conversation in the DM is different. It is. People have different answers, different people responses, people act differently. And if we have a script, we can't follow that person and suit the conversation to that person. We can just suit it to the script that we've been given by a mentor. Okay, which is going to lead to you not discovering properly, not ushering someone to a call properly, and not positioning yourself and using the authority position and shift to qualify them to book them onto a sales call. Okay, so that's the third reason. And the fourth reason is that it is robotic. Okay, you can tell. You can tell. I've had various people message me, right, and they've had a script and I can tell instantly. So if I can tell, your prospects can tell. What does that say about you, right? They're not going to trust you. They're going to be able to tell that it's a script. It's not going to feel genuine. And they're not going to feel like they can truly trust you, because what expert in their field uses a script? They don't. Okay, so before we even move on to any of these things, we need to tackle that. I'm going to put a line through this just so it can visually sink into your mind to not use scripts. So that's a perfect line, actually. That's a perfect line. So step number two. Now, this is not me bragging, but booking calls is easy. Okay. Now, if you're coming to me, or if you're stuck there and you sat there yourself and you're like, booking calls is kind of difficult. No, it's not. It's really, really, really not difficult at all. Chances are that if you find booking calls hard, it's because you're making some of these common mistakes that I'm going to go over in a second. But what you need to realize about booking calls is that booking a sales call is not this like gigantic event where, there's pressure and there's everything like that. It's literally just an olive branch extension to help someone, right? Now, once you take the internal pressure of booking calls and the internal sort of like expectation to book loads of calls off, you're going to find that booking calls is relatively easy, right? And I've seen a lot of coaches. I literally spoke at a business mastermind last weekend. Depending on when this video comes out, it might be 2 weeks ago, but you'd probably have seen that. And I was talking to a few coaches, and a lot of them were like, "Oh, booking calls is hard," and everything like that. And I was like, "Well, yeah, for you, of course it is, because you don't have the necessary skills in order to make it easy. But for me, booking calls is easy. Like, I booked 2 sales calls on a Friday night when I was just chilling after like having some drinks, and I wasn't drinking, but other people were. Like, it's genuinely easy. Like, booking calls is so simple, but you just lack the foundational knowledge and understanding and skill set and everything else to make it that reality for yourself. Now, if you want to make it easy for yourself, you can. You can either scour this YouTube video and make notes, scour the rest of my YouTube channel and make notes, or you can click the link in the description, work with me, inside my community, and get quicker results. It's up to you. But booking calls is not hard. Oh, it's not hard at all. You're just making these mistakes, not doing this, not doing this, not doing this, and doing all this, coincidentally. So, with that being said, and my bragging out of the way, common mistakes. Lead. How can I describe that? Lead. Aura. And what was the other one called? There was another one that I wrote down in my notebook that's literally there. Lead, common mistakes, coach. Okay, cool. So we've got lack. Lead, aura, coach. Okay, now what do I mean by lead? What do I mean by aura? What do I mean by coach? Now, 99.9% of you are going to fall victim to doing this one the most. And this is destructive. This is the most destructive mistake that you can explain, because I'm going to explain that in a minute. So it's the most destructive because of the value tip. Okay. Now I'll explain that in a brief moment, but let me just explain these two. So I'm writing gibberish, right? To you, I'm writing gibberish on this board right now, but it's all going to click in together very shortly. So mistake number 1 is led, right? You are being led in the conversations that you're having in the DMs. Now, what do I mean by you're being led? In a conversation, there's 2 people, right? A conversation is a back and forth. One person is leading, one person is following. Okay. Now, there's a very common phrase in sales and in, I guess you can say, the communication space. He who controls he who asks the questions controls the conversation. Now, in a conversation, a sales conversation setting, the person who's asking the questions is in control of the conversation. Okay. Now, these all tie into each other, because if you're doing the third one, the chances are you're falling victim to the first one. But when you control the conversation and ask the questions, that means you're controlling the conversation, right? Now, what too many coaches do is they do not. So, how can I explain this? So, when I have a conversation with someone on the right-hand side of the screen, I go in a straight line from there down to here to booking the call, right? I'm the one asking the questions the entire time, okay? But what I've seen a lot of coaches do, and I've literally had coaches at events slide their laptop over to me, I've had a look, and this has been the case. So what a lot of coaches do is they ask a question, and then their prospect will say something, ask a question, and then they answer the question. And then the prospect asks another question, and they're just being led. In the DMs, you always need to be the one who's leading the conversation. Okay, you need to be the one who's in control, asking the questions, controlling the frame the entire time, right? And if a prospect asks you a question, you simply deflect it and ask a question. right, to get back in control of the conversation. And the mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they are being led through the conversation. They're not leading the conversation because they don't have the authority position in shift, which is what we're going to go through in just a moment, which is going to change everything. But we need to go through these first. So what coaches are doing is they're being led in the conversation, and they're not the one controlling every aspect, every angle of the conversation, which leads to them getting ghosted, the prospect going into cost-based thinking, which is what we spoke about earlier, which I spoke about in another video. And it just leads to the conversation going flat, going dead, or them just not booking in a call, okay? Now, mistake number 2 is that, I don't know why I did a bottle flip, but mistake number 2 is the aura. Right now, aura is quite a Gen Z word, right? Like it's quite a I don't know, TikTok-ish word, or aura. Now, what an aura is like a vibe, right? So like you give off a certain aura, you give off a certain vibe. So the vibe that you're probably getting from this video is I'm relaxed, professional, knowledgeable. I sound like Zach Horrific, just blowing smoke up my own trumpet. But what I'm trying to say is that the mistake that a lot of coaches make is that they give off the aura of being desperate, okay? Now, yet again, this is because they have not experienced the authority position in shift, which is, I've said this about 93 times, but that's key. But what they do is they give off the aura of desperation, and because they need to book in sales calls, regardless of if they do 50,000 a month, 5,000 a month, or 500,000 a month, because they give off the aura of needing to book in calls, they come off as desperate. Okay, which then translates into little things in the conversation, like asking someone, say for instance, oh, are you free for a call? Like, what on earth? Like, why are you asking people if they're free for a call? I'm going to go over that in a minute, but some of the largest mistakes I see people make is they give off the aura of being desperate, okay? And they give away a lot of their internal power because they give off that aura that they are desperate. Yeah, it's not good. I've seen a lot of the inside of DMs, and this can look like something like, think about it from like a dating perspective, right? So if you're a man trying to date a woman, if you wanted to like attract that woman and be seen as masculine and secure and authoritative, are you going to triple text them? No. Are you going to beg them to go on a date or ask them if they're free? No, you're not. So we need to carry this over into the DMs. And ladies, if you are watching this, if you're a female coach watching this, you know when a man is desperate. You know when a man is desperate. So think about that same behavior and apply it to your prospects, right? Avoid desperate behavior like asking someone if they're free for a call or asking them permission, because ultimately, remember, you are the authoritative figure in this scenario. So that then moves us on to mistake number 3, okay, which is coach. Now, what did I write there? Oh, destructive. This is such a destructive habit that I see people get into. And like I was saying about the business mentorship event that I was at, I literally saw someone, I literally pulled someone's laptop, like we were having a conversation. He asked me about DMs and he pulled his laptop out and I read through his DMs. And he was doing this. He was going into coach mode, right? Now, what does that mean? Now, going into coach mode is essentially when you give people solutions to their problems there and then in the DMs. I completely understand it because you want to be helpful, you want to help people, you want to provide value, and you want to help people solve their problems. But you are doing yourself and that person a disservice if you coach them in the DMs. And I'll explain why. Because there's a tipping point, right, of, say, for instance, like problem solving and urgency. Now, someone can either be, it's like a seesaw, right? So like, let's say for instance, if the seesaw was like this and it went like this is pain and then this is knowledge. Don't know why I'm using my elbows, but you've got pain and knowledge, right? So if you give someone enough knowledge, the more knowledge they have, the less pain they're in. Now, what you being a coach in the DMs does is that let me just try and draw this, right? So excuse my terrible drawing. So we've got a seesaw, so we've got here, one angle there, one angle there. So the more knowledge you give someone, no pain. So as you can see, the more knowledge that you give someone, so the more that you coach people in the DMs, the less pain they're going to be in, right? So the pain goes this way. The more knowledge you give someone, so the more knowledge you give someone, the less pain they're going to be in, okay? Now if we flip that, you know, we got seesaw here, you got here, so like let's say for instance, okay, so let's say for instance we got knowledge, pain. So the more pain you give someone, the less knowledge you give someone, the more pain they're going to be in, okay? Now, there's a tipping point in value here, right? Where, like, let's say, for instance, this is example 2, example 1. So let's say, for instance, you're being I need to blow my nose. So let's say, for instance, you are coaching someone in the DMs and you're giving them a lot of knowledge, right? You're helping them out with their problem. You're sending them voice notes. You're giving them value in their problem. They're going to have more knowledge, which means they're going to have less pain. Now, if they have less pain, are they going to get onto a sales call with you? No, probably not. But if you use discovery to create more pain without them having the additional knowledge, their pain's going to increase, which is going to get them onto a call. Okay? Now, what you've got to realize is that when you give knowledge to someone, like let's say for instance someone asks you about a certain workout split with rest days. Let's say for instance you tell them to do this, do that, do this. You're actually, good catch, you're actually disservicing them because in the long run they don't have the knowledge that you have, so they're just going to encounter new problems. So you need to actually solve this problem once and for all. Stop coaching people through micro problems in the DMs, right? Just please stop doing it, because like I've demonstrated by my fabulous drawings, the more knowledge you give someone, the less pain they're going to be in, which means they're not going to come on as a client. And if you want to make sales, you need pain, and you need them to not have the knowledge, right? And ultimately, they can have as much knowledge as they want, but chances are you as a coach know that knowledge without accountability or knowledge without implementation due to accountability doesn't mean anything, okay? Now, I've teased this long enough. So, authority, positioning, shift. So, I've written doctor down there because I want you to imagine something to really display the power of this, right? So, let's say, for instance, you go into the doctors, right? Do they fluff around, mess around, follow up with you? No, they don't, because they're an authority. And you look to the doctor to solve your problem. This is like a mindset thing. It's not really like a tactical thing. But once you adopt this mindset, I don't want to be too, mindset-y, because, I just don't want to. I'd rather be, tangible, but it's important. So this is more of a mindset thing, but it's huge, because what I need you to understand is that when you go into any sales interaction, that person that you're, obviously like interacting with, they have a problem. They're experiencing pain, okay, and they need the solution. Let's just take someone who is overweight, for example. They're overweight, right, which means that they've got possible health risks. They're probably not feeling too good in themselves as well, and they probably generally feel like shit, right? So they feel like shit. They are the one with the problem, right? They're the person who is in pain. They're the person that needs the help. So why on earth are you bending over backwards to follow up with that person, to message that person, to badger that person, to get them onto a call? They are the one who needs the help, right? Because they have the problem. The only thing that you don't have is that money that they would give you, potentially, right? If we're just calling a spade, okay? So once you attack the DMs from this sort of mindset, your whole aura changes, right? So you go from being desperate and coming across as like kind of needy to being the expert that's like, whoa, like this is quite attractive. And there's so much nuance to showing up like this, because once you show up like this, the change in nuanced behavior that you experience is fantastic, right? It is fantastic. It's like myself, right? I don't follow up with people. I don't beg people. I'll never beg anyone to work with me. I'll never sit there for 25 minutes and handle objections on a sales call with someone, because I know my product can change their life. They either want to or they don't. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, not handling objections when you're a sales guy, but when it's different for me, but with B2C, your energy, having this authority position shift can change your energy, which means you're less likely to get objections, because obviously once you nail this and you nail this, it's easier to get people on calls and it's easier to close them as well. So what essentially this means is that you need to realize that your prospects have the problems and you have the solution to those problems, okay? And once you attack it from that perspective, your behavior will change. You won't start following up with people like relentlessly. You won't start begging people for a call. You won't say to them, are you free for a call? And obviously it ties into this, right? So you'll be the one leading, because if you've ever gone to a doctor, they're asking you the questions through like 80% of the interaction. You're asking the questions at the end when it's time to have a diagnosis. You're not going to give off desperate vibes, and you're not going to coach people. That all happens when you shift your authority, okay? Now, I literally have a whole section on this inside my academy. So if you want to check that out and you want to really learn how to shift and step into that authority, links in the description. Just click it. So that moves us nicely on to discovery, okay? Now, I've made a ton of videos about discovery, but discovery is simple. It's A, B, that's a very good B, Y, con, erg. So discovery breaks down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, okay? So step number 1, obviously the consequence and the urgency is the most important one, but I'll tackle them in a minute. So step number 1 is point A, right? So where are they now? What does that look like? Like, how do they feel? What have they tried? Why hasn't it worked? Everything about their current situation, their painful state. How is what they're doing now making them feel? You know, you want to imagine it's just about the now. Like, it's literally just about the now. So that's point A, right? So the discovery process. Point B, the opposite. Where do they want to be? Why do they want to be there? What do they feel like they would need to be there? Like, what would being there or, you know, achieving that result do for them personally, financially, for their family, for their lives, for their bank account if you're selling B2B. So that's point B, okay? So then we move on to, what does that say? Oh, why? Sorry, I couldn't read my writing there for a second, but why? So essentially, if we combine point A and point B, why do they want to get there? Like, what is the actual reason that they want to solve this problem and move towards this pain point? Okay, so that's the next step. So if we cross that off, so then we move into stage number 4, which is consequence. Okay, so why do they actually want to get there, and what happens if they don't? Right, consequence and urgency, they tie in together very, very well. So yes, we got consequence and we got urgency. So what you want to ask is, what happens if you don't get there? What impact will that have on you? How would it make you feel? All that good stuff. And then we have urgency, which is, why do you need to do this right now? Like, why do you need to avoid these consequences now? Why can't this wait? Why can't you put this off for another 6 months? And a bonus question, I wasn't planning on giving this to you today, but I'm feeling generous, is, why can't you do this yourself? Okay, now that is a little sneaky question that you can ask, and it might sound counterintuitive, but it is an absolute game changer for preventing objections. Because if you've ever had the, oh, I need to think about it, or I can do this myself objection, you can just eliminate that through asking that question. Now, it might sound counterintuitive, and I literally say that to the prospects on a sales call or in the DMs. I literally say, this might sound like a bit of a counterintuitive question, but what's made you feel like doing this now? So you can ask that, and that can drive further discovery. So just to recap, point A, point B, why, consequence, urgency, why not do this yourself? So that is the simple steps of discovery. I've been over it a million times, so if you don't know how to do discovery by now, you probably should invest in my course. But anyway, whatever. So then we've got assuring, okay? So this can be done in 2 stages. I'm just gonna, okay, cool. So assuring someone onto a sales call gets broken up into 2 stages, right? We've got confirming and we've got when. Confirming is essentially what we want to do is, obviously in the discovery process as well, I don't need to tell you that, but we need to do qualification. Okay, so obviously that goes without saying, which I've taught you how to do. Anyway, so ushering people onto a sales call goes into 2 stages. We've got confirming and we've got winning, right? So confirming is when you've essentially gone through every single part of this process, right? We've gone through every single part of this process, and we're like, right, we've ran out of things to ask because we know everything and we need to get this person on a sales call now. So what you do is, I typically like to financially qualify someone. So I like to say, oh, like, do you feel like this is something that you'd want to invest into? You know, something along those lines. And then what I would say is, I would say to them something like, the best thing for us to do is to have a chat over Zoom so I can show you exactly how we can do blah, 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 so you can achieve blah, blah, blah. Would that be helpful? Okay, so firstly, we need to confirm if the sales call will be helpful to them, right? So this is obviously what we've just done, so we tick that off, right? Then we've got when. So pretty self-explanatory. This is where we find out when would be best, right? What we're not doing here is we're not giving them a link or send them a booking link, because if you send a booking link to someone, you're a moron, unless you have like thousands of leads, right? Cool. So let's just say, for instance, we suggested a time to them, right? So they say, yep, that would be helpful. And you say, okay, cool. I've actually got X time within the next 3 days, obviously, free. I just need to know which one works, and just pop me your email or your phone number or wherever. That is confirming the when. Notice how we're not asking them to get onto a call, right? We're not asking them saying, do you want to hop onto a call? We are ushering them, we're suggesting to them, we're saying the best thing for us to do, because it all comes back to here, doctor, the best thing for us to do, so think about your doctor saying, oh, the best thing for you to take would be iodine or whatever. Iodine? The best thing for you to take would be blah, blah, blah. The best thing for us to do would be to get onto a Zoom call, so or have a chat over Zoom, so I can show you blah, 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 blah. We are ushering these people onto a sales call. We're not suggesting, we're not begging, we're ushering. We're leading them onto a sales call from a position of being the expert. Okay, so that's what we are doing. Then when they confirm, when they say, I'm just writing things for the sake of it now, but when they say yes, then we move on to times, right? So what I would suggest is pick 2 times today. So pick 2 times in the next 24 hours, then pick 2 times in the next 48 hours. Okay, so let's say, for instance, if I say to you, right, I've got, what time is it now? 10 o'clock. Okay, so I've actually got some time at 6 o'clock tonight. I've got 5 or 7 tomorrow, and on Friday I can do 10 or 4, right? So you're just giving them 3 times across 2 times across 3 days. And then, obviously you're saying, I just need to know, instead of let me know, because that's open-ended, I just need to know, closed off question, what time is best, and I just need your email and your phone number. Okay, and the chances are, if they've said yes to the call being helpful, then they are just going to give you their email and their phone number. I'm not going to go into how to increase show-up rates, because honestly I find that boring, and it's in my course, so if you want to learn about it, cool. But that is literally how you can go, step by step onto a sales call, a qualified sales call with someone who is going to pay you in full. So obviously if you want to learn how to close sales calls, then I've got a video on my channel. I'll actually put it somewhere on this video for you to watch to learn how to close, and you should probably check that out before your next sales call.